You were just telling me about you were just describing that picture, between Boxbush and Hopton, the gypsies and the.
Yeah,
Can
well,
you just tell us?
some of the old people about the old farmers they'll remember this. Back in those days when it was horses more than vehicles, and the old gypsies used to come round and have their Sunday morning. It was Sunday morning. Put a bit of a kid on a pony and give him a bump and just gallop him up. He'd just gallop up the road. They'll stop him up the road, and the same thing will happen to send him back, and then they'll have a deal then. And right, pay the man, missus, pay the man. We're all skirting, pay all in pound notes, and some of their little remarks pass. I daren't mind, but a lot of the old farmers will tell you the same story. On a Sunday morning after the horse sale, that's the ones you almost said about horse sale. They weren't sales, they were just dealing. A lot of money changed hands, cash.
Did you buy any horses from the gypsies and travellers?
Oh, I bought that one particular one, Reggie Smith. He's dead now, but he was as straight as a gun barrel. You could deal with him, and he'd tell you that he was all right. I bought horses from him, I've sold horses to him. And he was genuine. He was a traveller, but he was reliable. So my answer to that is yes.
Did you buy any horses during the hop picking season?
No.
Now, you were telling us before about your experience of being a bushler. Can you tell us about that?
Well, I don't know what you want to know about it. I mean, it's such a foregone job. You just measure the hops. The pickers, they picked hops by hand. No machines then. And they had to bushel and just so many paid by the bushel. What do you want to know about it?
Well, you were describing some difficulty you had.
I don't think that should be on.
Oh, I think it should. It's such a great story.
But it's the truth again.
Well,
but
exactly. So we need to it's a fantastic story.
Well, this one bloke was a bit nosy and out of hand. And I told him what I did, and he just, I don't know whether I hit him down or whether he fell down. But when I stood over him, he gave up then, but he was no more trouble after that.
Could you tell us from the beginning, because you were saying that he was nudging it and he was just being a bit of a nuisance.
Yeah.
And you spoke to your boss. Can you just tell us that whole story?
Yes.
Just take your time. There's no rush.
No hurry.
Again, I repeat myself, it's genuine. The boss is the manager of that place, I think Mr. Williams, a long time ago. And when he went up lunchtime, everything all right down there, Dad? I said, well, not really. What's wrong? I said, well, there's one bugger down who wants to measure his own hops, I think. And he said, well, you know what to do with him. I said, what? He said, bloody measure him. Those are the words. I wish Mr. Williams was still here. And he said, I said to old George Powell, I think it was George Powell, the other bloke, leave it with me. So we found out number 3 crib, what number 23 crib was, and I come back up on that one. That's when I warned him before we started measuring. I said, now, the boss said, if you start messing about measuring this, I got to measure you. And he just sneaked like a bit of a snare, and I said, well, we'll see. And he eventually started tapping the bushel and knocked a few hops out. I said, don't do that again. And I said that to him 2 or 3 times. In the end, I said, don't do it anymore. But he did. And that's when I emptied the hops back into the crib instead of in the sack, walked around with the bushel and went to put it over his head. And I don't know what happened there, but I think he went to hit me or something, but I caught him instead. And as he went back, he caught his foot in the hop row. And he went backwards, went down, and I don't know whether I hit him then or whether he fell down. But I went and stood over him, And instead of nasty, he got, he said, all right, boss. Just put Johnny, all right, boss. And he was never any more trouble after that. Nor nobody else in the hop yard. He did me the world of good.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's what I did tell you before, because it is genuine. No old bunkum about it. It's the truth.
Well, we've heard similar stories, Ivor. So we've heard it that it was quite tough being a bushler.
Well, you didn't have to be nervous, because I'm very nervous, really.
Are you? Well, tell us what would make a good bushler. I mean, would you get lots of people shouting at you, or?
Oh yes, you've got a lot of very rude remarks. Oh yeah, you get a lot of sarcastic remarks, and they used to give you every chance to retaliate, but you've got to keep calm. Just let it run off like water. You just had to stick it. But that you could see caused trouble. But that one, he kept on and on and on till that happened.
He really pushed you, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah. But after that, he was all right. Because he was, then a little thing. The bushler is the boss of the hop yard. The bushler is the boss. I think you can almost say the boss over the boss. The bushler is the boss of the hop yard, and that's when you can turn him out. That particular bloke, I turned him out of the hop yard. I just tilted it. I can remember doing it now. I don't know whether I told you this before. Took the last hops out, heavier then, get my own back. Emptied the crib. Then I put my foot under, there's a bar along the bottom like that, and I turned the crib on his side, and I out to the hop yard. And I sent him up to the, and if I could find the year of this, there's got to be somebody that can tell you the truth about it. I'm telling you the truth. I'd like it to, and I don't know where I could find you now, because that's going back about 50 years. When I come home from the war. And I just, must have been 1947, 8, something like that. So if you find somebody to do that, they'll tell you the same story. Because I sent him out and he went up to the, and he can't come back in the hop yard until I say so. Mr. Williams said no, because he said by going back in, Mr. Williams said, no, you see the man that turned you out. And he come out, he a bit of humble pie with me. I did eventually let him come back in, but he was never any trouble.
Did you have any of the pickers going on strike?
Sorry?
Did you have any pickers going on strike?
I never had, no, I don't know, I never had any trouble with that, no. No.
Tell us about the dray horse and the pockets. You used to walk to the kilns. You were telling us before that you used to...
Yeah, well, there wasn't the tractors about then, what I'm talking about. You usually had horses. So they had a horse and a dray, a wagon, dray, whatever you call it, to take the hop pockets up to the kiln, and they'd offload them there, and then the kiln staff used to put them in the kilns to dry them. And then when they were dried, I had a very touchy job that. I've never had to do with that. And when they were dry enough to pocket, they used to bring them out off the kiln into like a kind of a cooling room. And when they were cool enough, they had to be absolutely dry. And then you put them in pockets then, shovel them down into this pocket and wind them down to press them in. That's why they had to press them in that hard. You couldn't get out of them. You had to have that hook to get out of them. And I just forget what weight was in each pocket now, but they weren't all that heavy, but so awkward. They were, and that was where I come into it really, hauling it, because I didn't do that. Before I started at lorries, I've been doing hop work like that. But then when I had the lorries, that's why I took over then with fetch the hop pockets from different farms and took them into, some to Hereford, some to Worcester, And then eventually that place down in Ledbury down there, where it's a factory now.
So, what farm were you working on when you were a bushler, Ivor? Where was that? Where were you?
The Dormington Court.
Dormington Court. So, did you know Peter Davis?
I knew the Davises, but not enough to know him. I know it was Davises, that farm, joining farm. They were big hop growers as well. But I didn't have much to do with them. Not anything wrong. It's just that I didn't know him. I was bushling next door sort of thing.
So, did you do any other roles on the hop farm? So you were doing hauling and bushling. Did you do anything else?
Well, yes, I suppose, because long before that, I worked for different places. From the time a hop yard is finished, picked and done, you start again. First of all the rubbish got to be burnt, and we all had to do anything. All the old hop wires and then vamp it again sort of thing, and burn all the old bines and get it ready. Then you start ploughing. First you ploughed hops. I think it was you plough them up first. No, I've done up or down. I think you plough them up first, and then you plough them down, which means a row, and between each row was about from that door up to your 4 or 5 feet wide enough to take horses and carts up. And by the time you burnt all the rubbish, then cleared it, start ploughing. You plough the soil up to the hops and one thing another, and then so long, I don't know what that half of it, but I know it was ploughed back down again and left a little strip like that, so you didn't cut this, what they call the stalks, the roots. You could, as near as you could, because in the old days, all that would be at what they call throwing down and cutting. You had to throw it, what little strip was left was throw that down. That was done by hand in those days. It was a kerf and knock it down, cut it to level it. Then with a hop knife, I think I've got one here somewhere, to cut the root off into like I think it was 3 sides to it, to leave like a crown for it to shoot again. Got it?
Yeah.
And then when you got that done, eventually it was stringing, get all the wires up together again with it and re-string it, and then train the hops up the strings. That's the all women's jobs, and the hop stringing and tying, hop tying. The all women used to go and earn their bit of pocket money then. So that was going on then for the next season. All through that season, you were working between the hop rows with horses. You know, harrowing and scuffling and disking and whatever. And then you had to plough him up against the roots and ready for to go in for the season. Well, as I said, scuffling is like a deep harrow. Goes a lot deeper than harrows. You scuffle it first to loosen the ground up. I'm jumping the gun a bit. You plough the hops up, then you plough them down. And what is there then when you scuffle, you've got what they call work between the rows, work the ground between the rows. And it all comes into it. The scuffles, discs, arrows to make it nice and level, so that when you're going up there and then you can walk between the rows all right.
What is disking?
Disking is like, discs are, you drag the discs and they drag them along and they go round and cut the clods up.
Oh, it's on the back of a tractor,
Yeah.
you mean? Ah.
But they did have them, at one time they did have horse discs, but they too heavy, they didn't do too good. It had to stick to the scuffles then more. And the thing is, I'm going back, what I'm talking about now, where people very likely pick holes in what I'm saying, not knowing that the scuffles for a horse to pull were about as wide as from there to that door. But now a tractor is from here to that wall. So they're too wide for, but those were made for more for row crop work. So you could scuffle between the hop rows. The implements were made to fit in with the hop yards.
And I suppose made so that a horse and a trader can get through as well.
There wasn't much room because when it was when there's no hops growing or strung up, then you could do that. But once the hops were up there, you couldn't get a high vehicle through there then, because the strings come from the root up, and they used to brace the strings, by the way, to keep them up together. Then you could walk up through there, and like when they're picking them, you've got to be able to carry a crib up through there.
Did you meet any like characters in the hop yard when you were a bushler? Does anyone that you remember stands out for you?
Ah, that one I ate.
That's a short answer, that's all we need.
Did you have travellers picking?
Oh yes, quite a lot of travellers. Oh yeah, it was a proper holiday for the travellers, not holiday, but it was yes, look, the travellers, it was their life. They go around now, not so much picking now because it's gone. But when I was bushling, you would see nothing but I don't know, many travellers. I bushelled at several different places. I didn't only bushel at not the same season. One season I bushelled at Pudges at I forget the name of the farm now. You go from here to Bromyard, when you cross the Hereford, and they have pockets there in the buildings there. I measured there one year. There's a bloke that used to be hop factor bloke. He used to say, once a bushel is so and so, could you do it? I either yes or no or whatever. It was him that got me the busheling.
I've heard that word hop factor. What is a hop factor?
No, I don't really know enough to explain, but I think it's more like a dealer then. But he was like agent. I don't know how to put it, but
Yeah.
hop factor. And I do remember a little bit off the cuff really, but his car was number Hop 100.
That's a
Yeah.
great.
Yes, and I used to do a lot of hauling up at Tesco's, Belvale Packers at Cornwall, and the managing bloke up there had a car 100 hop. The one Hop 100 wanted to buy that car to have the number plate, but he was a bit of a Jew boy, and he wanted too much money for it, and he wouldn't pay, and so he missed silly, but he missed the sale. And that was, I forget his name now, but he was the manager of Belvale Packers at Cornwall. Nothing to do with hops, but the number of the car was Hop 100, and the other had 100 hop. What nice to have one each. Yeah.
Could you just tell us about that again then? Because you're just saying he gave you a bit of work, you wanted to keep in with him. Was this the hop factor man?
No.
Who's this?
He was the manager of Belvale Packers, but he had that car 100 hop or Hop 100, and the other had the other one opposite. Forget which is which out of him, but I think it's 100 hop belonged to the bloke that the hop bloke, the farmer, the factor bloke.
So you had to keep in with him?
No, not him. I had to keep in with Belvale Packers chap because not keep in. No, not keep in. Yeah, but keep. I wanted to work. I just, the more work you have, the better off you are. So I used to do that, and then when I said that this car 100 hop, and he asked me, would they sell it? And then he wanted to sell it, silly money, but he was a bit of a 4x2.
Just one more story you attend. Sorry?
That's a new phrase.
Yes.
What is?
A 4x2.
4x2. You were telling
I'm
us,
speaking out of turn here now.
you talked about the little gang, or the bushler, the sack man, the booker. the man holding the sack. Can you tell us about that?
What is there to tell you?
Well, pretty much what I've said, but put it in your answer. You described it to
Well,
us.
you had your little gang. George Powell had his little gang. I had my little gang. So I had a little secretary that was the boss's daughter, as a matter of fact, done my little bit of booking. When as the one shouts out so many, it's up to her to book it and have it right for the powers that be then. So you had a secretary, or whatever you call him, on that case. Then you had a sack holder. Could be two, but usually one could manage. Then you had sack carriers to carry him from the crib out to where the horse and wagon could pick him up on the headland. That's about as much as I can say on that, really.
I think a project like this is worthwhile.
Recording people's stories.
Recording people's stories.
What's some of our words, lest we forget? What is another one they say? To do with remembrance, really. I forget what they say now, but that is what, in a nutshell, people shouldn't forget. There's lots of things gets me a bit, because memories, true memories, like we picked up when we were patrolling and things like that. These little things come out, and we're talking like this now and again. Oh yes, we're out, not off Dungeness, out further out towards the other side, and during this early hours, very early hours of the morning, just getting daylight, a torpedo went home. And we picked up one old boy, bless him, he was dead, as it happened, but his two legs were blown off down there. And all the sinews in the legs were hanging out. And that's a sort of sight. I'll never forget things. There's that poor old boy, and he was dead. And it was about 4 in the morning, that just getting daylight. That's things I know you don't forget it.